Hey folks, welcome to a look at some of the new stuff in Worldographer 2025. I'm Joe Wetzel, the creator of the program, and we're going to be talking about something that is brand spanking new in the 1.08 update, which we just put out today. It is September 26th, and as I'm recording this, we've got a crowdfunding campaign to put out, a huge number of new features into Worldographer. Um, as part of this crowdfunding campaign, we've got some back end changes to allow that to happen. We've got a UI refresh as well, and so we're asking you to support that. Worldographer's been out for 6 or 8 years now, and here we're going to be doing this 2025 update with all these additional changes. Worldographer is, talk about the longevity of the program. Worldographer is the second iteration of what was Hexographer, which goes back to 2008, if I recall correctly. Um, and as part of the crowdfunding campaign, you can download this demo. You can go to the crowdfunding page, which will be linked below, and then on that page is a link to the demo. And you can download and install it and give it a try and see if the software is a good fit for for how you like to make maps. And if it is, come on back to the crowdfunding page and consider supporting us before October 8th, because that's when the campaign ends. And on the in the crowdfunding, we've got a couple of higher level rewards to get a whole slew of icons, whether you want them in one style or in four different styles that we have. We have two World Kingdom kind of level styles. One's this classic one. Another style is the isometric style, which is kind of more like civilization, early civilization computer game graphics, if you want, like Civ 2, Civ 3, Civ 4, that kind of era. And then we've got icon sets for settlement maps of like cities and towns, top-down views of buildings essentially, and the fourth set is for battle maps. So with that out of the way, let's talk about creating a new world kingdom map, because that was the winner in our poll. We've been doing these polls throughout the crowdfunding campaign for new features that people would like to see. We've got like 10 or so options, and let people vote on those and see what people want to have added into the software most. And in the most recent poll, it was very obvious, even within hours, which one was going to win, which was to take a look at the world generation algorithm and make it a little bit more accurate in a couple of different ways. And so I followed that up with some questions for folks on our Discord who had initially suggested it. And they gave me a list of 3 changes that would be helpful, and I think that I've addressed those 3. And we'll go into detail about that in a moment. To make it a little bit easier to talk about those changes, though, I've set up the map to be 180 hexes high, just so that gives us an easy way to talk about latitudes. So, of course, 90 hexes down is going to be our equator, for example. 60 hexes down is going to be 30 degrees north, and 120 down will be 30 degrees south, for example. I did just arbitrarily make it 360 hexes wide. Actually, it probably should be a little bit more than that, just because of the staggered nature of hexes, but we'll leave it there for the moment, and maybe somebody will tell me what that value really should be. The rest of this stuff, we've gone into a deep dive discussing all of these settings, so I'm not going to go into a deep dive again about them, but if you want to generate everything about your world in one fell swoop, you can check these boxes on and change these settings and do so. However, I personally prefer not to. I like to leave them off because they're all available on the generate menu. Once you've got a map created, it adds the appropriate options to the generate menu, because different map types require different generate options. So once you've got a map open, it adds this generate menu and sets up those options on there appropriately, which are equivalent to these. And so that lets me just tweak the land before we put down the coast, and tweak the coast before we do the rivers or the nations and so forth. And I just like to do it better that way. And then we've got these settings here control the land frequency, mountain frequency, and so forth, and just like what they say. It is important that you have generate terrain on instead of just creating all one terrain. If you did all one terrain, then that's good if you've got something specific in mind for your map, where you want to create a blank map and just lay out some rough terrain and then fill that terrain. Have our terrain wizard, for example, fill that terrain in, or do that yourself if you've got something really specific. And then of course it's always editable after that. So I'm just going to use the map that we've already got generated in this case, but you can just hit generate map once you've got the settings you want. And there's three key changes that people have suggested when I asked for those details of how to make the map generation a little bit more realistic. The first one is kind of the most nuanced or the most difficult to explain to me, and that is that you want, your because of wind patterns, you don't want to have your vegetation downwind, if you will, from mountains. So in like the 60 degrees north and higher, which would be kind of at the 30 hexes down or so, at that point you're not going to have let me go a whole screen up. At that point there, your winds are going to be going westward, so you're not going to have forests west of your mountains. However, when we get a little bit further down to where I was here, if I scroll down a little bit further, so here in this range from 38 to 60 degrees, you're not going to have your forests within 10 hexes or so of the mountains, and because your winds are going eastward at this point from 38 degrees to 60 degrees north, which again 60 degrees north is going to be just a little bit above the screen here at the 30 hexes down, and sure enough we can see that with these mountains here, you don't have forest within about 10 hexes there. However, I will say that the forest placement does pick an initial location, and then it grows the cluster from there. So there is potential that it's going to be closer than 10 hexes away. But you're going to have some variation, and your winds aren't necessarily directly east-west. In fact, when you go towards the poles, they're also going towards the pole, in addition to going westward. And in this 30 to 60 degree range, or especially like in the 0 to 38 degree range where they're going westward again, you're kind of also going north or south depending on which hemisphere you're on and so forth. But you can look that up for yourself to get the details on that. Point is that there's no hard and fast rule. Also, the land where the land masses are and where the mountains are specifically is also going to impact that. So if you get a result though that has the forest where you don't want them, of course, the whole point of Worldographer is you can fully edit your terrain, so you can change that. All right, the other two changes are a whole lot easier to talk about. First of all, we've got our mountains are now more in lines. So here you can see that there's a smaller mountain line, not terribly long, but it's still there. This one here, of course, is much longer. Here's another one down here, and that was the intent of the algorithm before, but because there was a setting that was off, it was basically only trying one or two more times to make additional clusters of mountains in a line. Now we've changed that setting so it tries, several times, even 10 or 20 times, depending on what the random numbers that it gets come back with. So it will make a line of mountains that is much longer than before. And then the other change to talk about is our desert areas, and our desert areas now are going to be centered on the 30 degree north and 30 degree south latitudes, which is accurate for what's in the real world. Most but not all your deserts, and of course they're going to extend beyond that as well. So here we've got this desert area, and the 60 hexes down would be roughly where the 30 degrees north is, and that's down here towards the bottom of my screen at the moment. So if I scroll down, so this might have been the start, and then it just was extending out from there. We also have another change where if it detects forest next to where it's trying to place down the desert, it changes some of that forest to grassland. And of course, because you don't want to necessarily butt up your desert against grassland, or I mean against forest. So having some grassland in there, not always, it's not a uniform thing, but that's the goal. That's the gist of it. You're going to have some variation always. So it does that. So that's at the 30-degree north, and then if we come down to 120 hexes down, that's going to be our 30-degree south area. And sure enough, we've got our desert happening there too. And if you look at the mini map, you can see that you have the desert is predominantly in those areas of the 120 hexes and the 60 hexes going across there. So those are the three key changes to the world generation algorithm in Worldographer, thanks to our poll. We'll have another new poll up later today where people can vote on what's the next feature that we want to add. We do have a couple of large features from the first poll that we're still, that are going to take some time and going to be something where we'll be working on for the next, several weeks. But I do want to, kind of show off these small changes. They're fun to do. They take, a half a day to write and test and everything. So they're fun for me to do. So I like to get them out there, and it gives me something to promote here in the YouTube channel. So I appreciate that. And again, we'll have a link down below to the crowdfunding page where you can support the crowdfunding as well as check out the demo. So with that, I think that covers what I wanted to say today. Thanks a bunch. I hope the tool lets you make some great maps. Thanks.